In the Heat of the Night is a 1967 American mystery drama film directed by Norman Jewison. It is based on John Ball's 1965 novel of the same name and tells the story of Virgil Tibbs, a black police detective from Philadelphia, who becomes involved in a murder investigation in a small town in Mississippi. It stars Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger, and was produced by Walter Mirisch. The screenplay was by Sterling Silliphant. The film won 5 Academy Awards, including the 1967 awards for Best Picture and Rod Steiger for Best Actor. The quote, "They call me Mr. Tibbs," was listed as number 16 on the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Movie Quotes, a list of top film quotes. In 2002, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Philip Colbert, a wealthy industrialist from Chicago, is in Sparta, Mississippi, to begin construction of a large factory there. Late one sultry night, police officer Sam Wood discovers Colbert's dead body laying in the street. Police Chief Bill Gillespie leads the murder investigation. The local doctor estimates that Colbert had been dead for around an hour. Gillespie sends Wood to search the town for the suspect. At the train station, Wood finds a well-dressed black man, Virgil Tibbs, waiting for a train, and arrests him. Gillespie, with no real evidence, accuses Tibbs of the murder, and is soon embarrassed to learn Tibbs is a police detective from Philadelphia. Gillespie phones Tibbs' chief, who informs Gillespie that Tibbs is the department's top homicide expert and recommends that he should assist the investigation. The idea does not appeal to either Gillespie or Tibbs, but for reasons of their own they reluctantly agree. Tibbs examines Colbert's body and concludes the murder happened much earlier than the doctor had estimated, that the killer was right-handed, and that the victim had been killed elsewhere, then moved to where the body was found. Gillespie arrests another suspect, Harvey Oberst, who, even though he has Colbert's wallet, protests his innocence. He claims to have found the wallet on the street next to Colbert's body. What implies to Tibbs that Oberst will be beaten into confessing, but Tibbs reveals Oberst is left-handed and has an alibi for the time of the murder which can be verified by several witnesses. Colbert's widow is angered by the ineptitude of the police, but impressed with Tibbs' integrity and expertise. She threatens to abandon construction of the factory unless Tibbs leads the murder investigation, and the town's mayor and leading citizens are forced to go along with her wish. Tibbs and Gillespie initially dislike one another but begin to respect each other as they are forced to work together. Tibbs initially suspects plantation owner Eric Endicott, an older, genteel racist and the most powerful man in town, who publicly opposed the new factory. When Tibbs interrogates Endicott, Endicott slaps him across the face and Tibbs immediately slaps him back. Endicott soon sends a gang of thugs after Tibbs. Gillespie rescues Tibbs and orders him to leave town for his safety, but Tibbs is convinced he can solve the case. Tibbs asks Wood to retrace his patrol car route on the night of the murder, and Gillespie joins them. When Tibbs asks Wood why he changed the route of his patrol at one point, Wood becomes indignant. Gillespie begins to become suspicious of Wood. The following day, Gillespie goes to the local bank and discovers that Wood made a sizable deposit into his account the day after the murder. Gillespie now suspects Wood of killing and robbing Colbert and arrests him. Despite Tibbs' protests, he still suspects Endicott. Purdy, a hostile and racist local, brings his 16-year-old sister, Dolores, to the police station to file charges against Wood for statutory rape and leaving her pregnant. Tibbs insists on being present when Dolores is questioned. Purdy is offended that a black man was present at his sister's questioning, and gathers a mob to attack Tibbs. Meanwhile, Tibbs tells Gillespie that the murder was committed at the site of the planned factory, which clears Wood of the murder charge, because he couldn't have driven both his and Colbert's cars back into town. Tibbs adds that he knows why Wood changed his route. Dolores is an exhibitionist and displays her naked body nightly through open windows to whomever is outside, and Wood, who watches her from his car while on duty, did not want Tibbs to see a nude white girl. With information from Oberst, Tibbs finds the local backstreet abortionist, who pressures her into revealing that she is about to perform an abortion on Dolores. Dolores arrives, sees Tibbs, and attempts to run away. Tibbs catches her and comes face to face with her armed boyfriend, Ralph, a cook from a local roadside diner. At that moment, Purdy's mob arrives on the scene and holds Tibbs at gunpoint. Tibbs shouts at Purdy to check Dolores' purse, and that it contains $100 that Ralph gave her for an abortion, which he got when he killed and robbed Colbert. Purdy grabs the purse, looks inside and realizes Tibbs is right, Dolores lied about what getting her pregnant to protect Ralph. Purdy angrily confronts a frightened Ralph who shoots Purdy dead. Tibbs grabs Ralph's gun, and Purdy's gang jump into their car and flee. Ralph is arrested and confesses to Colbert's murder. He had gone to ask Colbert for a job at the new factory, but ended up hitting him from behind and stealing his money. "That's all. I didn't mean to kill him," are the final words of Ralph's taped confession. The final scene shows Tibbs boarding a train bound for Philadelphia, as Gillespie, having carried his suitcase, respectfully and fondly bids him farewell. Although the film was set in Sparta, Mississippi, most of the movie was filmed in Sparta, Illinois, where many of the film's landmarks can still be seen. Jewison, Poitier, and Steiger worked together and got along well during the filming, but Jewison had problems with the Southern authorities, and Poitier had reservations about coming south of the Mason-Dixon line for filming. However, despite their reservations, Jewison decided to film part of the film in Dyersburg and Union City, Tennessee anyway, while the rest was filmed in Sparta, Chester, Harvey Oberst's chase scene, and Freeburg, Compton's diner, Illinois. The famous scene of Tibbs slapping Endicott is not present in the novel. According to Poitier, the scene was almost not in the movie. In the textbook Civil Rights and Race Relations in the USA 1850 to 2009, Access to History, Poitier states, "I said, I'll tell you what, I'll make this movie for you if you give me your absolute guarantee when he slaps me I slap him right back and you guarantee that it will play in every version of this movie. I try not to do things that are against nature." Poitier's version of the story is contradicted by Mark Harris in his book, Pictures in a Revolution. Harris states that copies of the original draft of the screenplay that he obtained clearly contain the scene as filmed, which is backed up by Jewison and Silliphant. Nevertheless, Poitier is correct that Tibbs slapping Endicott was not originally envisioned. After Endicott slaps, Silliphant's initial step-out line reads, "Tibbs has all he can do to restrain himself." The butler drops his head, starts to pray. "For him, Uncle Tom," Tibbs says furiously, "not for me." Tibbs' counter-slap first appears in Silliphant's revised step-out line. Tibbs urging the butler to pray for Endicott was part of Silliphant's adaptation of In the Heat of the Night, a subversive Christian allegory, featuring Tibbs as messianic outsider who confronts the racist establishment of Sparta. The film is also important for being the first major Hollywood film in color that was lit with proper consideration for a black person. Haskell Wexler recognized that standard strong lighting used in filming tended to produce too much glare on dark complexions and rendered the features indistinct. Accordingly, Wexler toned it down to feature Poitier with better photographic results. The film score was composed, arranged, and conducted by Quincy Jones, and the soundtrack album was released on the United Artists label in 1967. The title song, performed by Ray Charles, composed by Quincy Jones, with lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman, was released as a single by ABC Records and reached number 33 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and number 21 on the Hot Rhythm and Blues Singles chart. AllMusic Stephen McDonald said the soundtrack had a tone of righteous fury woven throughout and that the intent behind In the Heat of the Night was to get a Southern, blues-inflected atmosphere to support the angry, anti-racist approach of the picture, although the cues from In the Heat of the Night show their age. The Vinyl Factory said the soundtrack to a film about racism in the South has a cool, decidedly Southern fried sound with funk-bottomed bluesy touches, like on the strutting Cotton Curtain, the Down and Dirty Whipping Boy, or the fat and sassy Chief's Drive to Mayor. All compositions by Quincy Jones. In the Heat of the Night, lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman, 2:30. Peep Freak Patrol Car, 1:30. Cotton Curtain, 2:33. Where Whitey Ain't Around, 1:11. Whipping Boy, 1:25. No You Won't, 1:34. Nitty Gritty Time, 1:50. It Sure Is Groovy, 2:30. Lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman. Bow-Legged Polly, 2:30. Lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman. Shagbag, Hounds and Harvey, 3:28. Chief's Drive to Mayor, 1:10. Give Me Until Morning, 1:09. On Your Feet, Boy, 1:37. Blood and Roots, 1:07. Mama Khaliba's Blues, 5 o'clock. Fall Out on the Prowl, 2:30. Lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman. Unidentified orchestra arranged and conducted by Quincy Jones, including Ray Charles, vocals, track 1, piano, track 15. Glenn Campbell, vocals, track 9, banjo. Boomer and Travis, Track 16, Gil Bernal, Track 8, Vocals. Roland Kirk, Flute. Bobby Scott, Tack Piano. Billy Preston, Electric Organ, Track 1. Ray Brown, Bass. Don Elliott, Human Instrument. The Realettes, Backing Vocals, Track 1. In contrast to films like The Chase and Hurry Sundown, which offered confused visions of the South, In the Heat of the Night offered a tough, edgy vision of a southern town that seemed to hate outsiders more than itself, a theme reflecting the uncertain mood of the time as the civil rights movement attempted to take hold. Canadian director Jewison wanted to tell an anti-racist story of a white man and a black man working together in spite of difficulties. Jewison said that this film proved a conviction he had held for a long time: it's you against the world. It's like going to war. Everybody is trying to tell you something different and they are always putting obstacles in your way. A particularly famous line in the film comes immediately after Gillespie mocks the name Virgil. Gillespie, that's a funny name for a nigger boy that comes from Philadelphia. What do they call you up there? And annoyed, Tibbs, they call me Mr. Tibbs. This reply was later listed as number 16 on the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Movie Quotes, a list of top film quotes, and was also the title of the sequel. Another iconic scene that surprised and perhaps shocked audiences at the time occurs when Tibbs is slapped by Endicott. Tibbs responds by slapping him back. In a San Francisco pre-screening, Jewison was concerned when the young audience was laughing at the film as if it were a comedy. The audience's stunned reaction to the slapping scene convinced Jewison that the film was effective as drama. That scene helped make the film so popular for audiences, finally seeing the top black film actor physically strike back against bigotry, that the film earned the nickname Super Spade vs. the Rednecks. During the film's initial run, Steiger and Poitier occasionally went to the Capitol Theater in New York to amuse themselves seeing how many black and white audience members there were, which could be immediately ascertained by listening to the former cheering Tibbs's retaliatory slap and the latter whispering "oh" in astonishment. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times called it the most powerful film I have seen in a long time. Life magazine said it was an altogether excellent film that is quite possibly the best we have had from the US this year. Then freshman critic Roger Ebert in 1967 gave In the Heat of the Night a positive review and placed it at number 10 on his top 10 list of 1967 films. Art Murphy of Variety felt that the excellent Poitier and outstanding Steiger performances overcame noteworthy flaws, including an uneven script. Penelope Gilliard in The New Yorker was the main negative voice and thought it had a spurious air of concern about the afflictions of the real America at the moment and that it is essentially a primitive rah-rah story about an underdog's triumph over a bully. Stephen H. Scheuer's Movies on TV, 1972-73 edition, gives In the Heat of the Night its highest rating of 4 stars, recommending it as an exciting, superbly acted and directed film about prejudice, manners, and morals in a small Mississippi town, with the concluding sentences stating, Director Norman Jewison does an outstanding job in creating the subsurface tension of life in a sleepy southern town, and the supporting performances are uniformly fine. A first-rate film in all respects. Leonard Maltin's TV Movies and Video Guide, 1989 edition, follows Scheuer's example with its own highest rating of 4 stars, concluding that a marvelous social thriller hasn't dated one bit, tough, funny, and atmospheric, with unbeatable acting and splendid Quincy Jones score. 5 Oscars include Best Picture. Mick Martin's and Marsha Porter's DVD and Video Guide, 2007 edition, also puts its rating high, at 4 stars, out of 5, finding it a rousing murder mystery elevated by the excellent acting of Rod Steiger and Sidney Poitier. British references, likewise, show high regard for the film, with David Shipman in his 1984 The Good Film and Video Guide giving 3 out of 4 stars, noting that as mystery or detective story this film is only fair, but it has enormous tension. Within its given framework, it is good on the color question. There is tension in the eyes of the black, Sidney Poitier, who happens to be a homicide officer, and malevolence in those of the local police chief, Rod Steiger. These are 2 remarkable performances, well supported by Warren Oates, Lee Grant, and Larry Gates. Another British film critic, Leslie Halliwell, gave the film 2 stars out of 4, describing it in the 5th edition of his film guide, 1985, as an overrated policy in which the personality clash is amusing, and was timely, but the murder puzzle is a complete throwaway. After Halliwell's death, the 21st edition of Halliwell's Film Video and DVD Guide 2007 edited by John Walker, raised the rating to the highest level of 4 stars and rewrote the evaluation to state that it is a tense and exciting thriller that also explores racism through the explosive clash of two contrasting personalities. The film currently holds a 94% certified fresh rating on the review aggregate website Rotten Tomatoes, out of 51 reviews collected with an average rating of 8.27/10. Its consensus states, tense, funny, and thought-provoking all at once, and lifted by strong performances from Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger. Director Norman Jewison's look at murder and racism in small-town America continues to resonate today. The film opened at the Capitol Theater and at the 86th Street East Theater in New York City on Wednesday, August 2, 1967, grossing $108,107 in its first 5 days. It opened in Miami Beach, Florida, and in Toronto on Friday, August 4 and grossed $20,974 for the weekend, which, together with the New York grosses, combined to give a weekend gross of $95,806. It was released soon after race riots in Newark, Milwaukee, and Detroit. American Film Institute recognition. AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition number 75. AFI's 100 Years, 100 Heroes and Villains, Virgil Tibbs number 19 Hero. AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movie Quotes. Virgil Tibbs, They Call Me Mr. Tibbs, number 16. AFI's 100 Years, 100 Cheers, number 21. In the Heat of the Night was first released on DVD in 2001. In 2010, the film was digitized in high definition, 1080i, and broadcast on MGM HD. In 2014, MGM released the film on Blu-ray. It was re-released on DVD and Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection in January 2019. The Academy Film Archive preserved In the Heat of the Night in 1997. In 2002, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The film was followed by 2 sequels, They Call Me Mr. Tibbs, 1970, and The Organization, 1971, starring Poitier, but both films failed at the box office. It was also the basis of a 1988 television series adaptation of the same name.